Saskaya here with my friend and colleague Belinda Cox. She's on the other part of the globe. Belinda, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. Hi, my name is Belinda. I facilitate men's behaviour change programs in the southeast of Australia, in Queensland, and I am here working primarily on the land of the Yagara and Turrbal people.
Great, thanks, Belinda. So in our previous video, we talked about being a female facilitator and your messages for female facilitators. And now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to talk a little bit about what sort of messages would you want male co-facilitators to know in the men's behavior change space and the domestic and family violence sector? So I'm
Mm,
just going to be
yeah.
sort of broad, what would you want them to sort of know or learn from your experience?
I think one of the things that I would say is when we spend so much time in group, speaking to the men about how they communicate with their partners, how much time they give or how much space they give to their partners' thoughts, experience, what their partners actually really want, how they're feeling. I think that really needs to be reflected by male co-facilitators in group. It's not always about allowing women to have the opportunity to put their 2 cents worth in or to add. Sometimes it's actually stopping and asking and giving that space. The relationship between a male and a female co-facilitator needs to be quite dynamic. And I do think sometimes it can be easy to get carried away in something that you want to say and feel that, there's something really happening there in the space. But unless you are pausing, giving room and asking your female co-facilitator to speak, what she thinks as a woman, and it kind of can become a bit of an echo chamber. So I think that's something that's really important, particularly when you're starting out as a male co-facilitator.
Yeah, I mean, I think I always think about it this way, Belinda, which is that when the men come into a space with all these other men, right, there's a sort of co-experience that they all have that we don't, right, as
Yeah.
female facilitators. And what I like about what you said is that you don't want it to just be like an add-on. Oh, and by the way, what do you think, right? It's about, no, we really want to hear. We need to hear from what you have, what your perspective is in the world.
Mm.
And that's kind of what I heard you say. And I think that that's just so important. Would you say, Belinda, have you had any experiences? I know I have where you've had to have some maybe tough conversations with your male co-facilitators, and what I mean by this is that, I've had to have some with mine to say like, listen, when this happens, I want you to know, for example, and one I had is I said to my male co-facilitator, I'm asking the men a question and they're giving the answer to you, and then you're responding, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
I want you to notice this. And he's like,
Yeah.
really? That's what happens? I'm like, yes. I
Mm.
need you to see this. And so can you keep your eyes open to this? But any sort of similar experiences you've had where you've maybe had to have some of those conversations and a little bit about your experience of how that's went.
Yeah, look, that's definitely happened, and I have had to raise that because I think it just does go unnoticed because it's just such a natural state of things, unfortunately, out in the world as well, that can be really hard to overcome. I think the other thing as well that I've, occasionally spoken to my co-facilitators about is that if I provide some information from my perspective, and depending on how it's received, whether it's received well or whether it's not received well, rather than going, okay, well, that's good, and then moving on, I need you to back it up.
Yeah.
I need you to say, wow, that's, really interesting. Let's explore that more rather than, okay, thanks, we've touched on that next thing. Particularly if there's resistance to what I'm having to say. I need that backup. I need that, the fact that what I've contributed from my perspective as the only woman in the room, that's going to be explored further and not just by me pushing that, by my co-facilitator really pushing that as well and giving pause. I think one of the other things as well that has come up in the past is asking my male co-facilitators, if one of the men interrupts me, I don't want to have to be the one that always says, "Excuse me, I was still talking." I would like you to be the one that says, "Excuse me, Belinda was still talking." I think that's something that's really vital. It seems like such a small thing, but when you are in a room full of men, some of whom don't necessarily have a lot of respect for women, they will see that you're repeatedly the one that's having the conversations and challenging them about having your voice heard. Whereas if you have your male co-facilitator do that for and with you at the same time, it has added meaning.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you brought up that example because I hadn't thought about that. But as soon as you brought it up, I had so many memories of that. And, just sort of wishing my male co-facilitator would, or when they did, how important it felt to me in the moment. Yeah.